Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most intense developments in the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. Reports that Ukraine has hit targets in Crimea once again, and that Russia is moving fast to reinforce its defenses. This situation has huge implications, both militarily and politically, and it's reshaping how both sides approach the next phase of the conflict. Crimea is once again at the center of global attention. Since Russia's annexation of the peninsula in 2014, it has been one of the most strategic and contested regions in Eastern Europe. For Russia, it's a crucial military stronghold, home to the Black Sea Fleet and a key logistical hub. For Ukraine, Crimea symbolizes both loss and resistance, a territory they view as illegally occupied and vital to regain. Every strike or countermeasure there carries deep meaning for both sides. Recent reports indicate that Ukraine launched another wave of attacks, targeting Russian military infrastructure in Crimea. These weren't random strikes. They were precise operations aimed at weakening Russia's ability to defend and project power. According to intelligence and media sources, Ukraine targeted advanced air defense systems like the S-400 Triumph, as well as radar installations and communication nodes. These systems form the backbone of Russia's defensive shield over Crimea, and damaging them could open gaps that Ukraine can exploit in future operations. The strikes are part of a broader Ukrainian strategy that has evolved over the past year. Instead of direct, large-scale offensives, Ukraine is focusing on high-impact, long-range strikes. This includes using drones, precision missiles, and sabotage operations to hit Russia's logistics, command centers, and energy infrastructure. The goal is to make Crimea a costly asset for Russia, one that demands constant defense, drains resources, and limits Moscow's operational freedom elsewhere. For Russia, these attacks are a serious challenge. Crimea has long been portrayed as untouchable, a symbol of Russian pride and strength. But repeated Ukrainian strikes have shattered that illusion. Satellite imagery and intelligence suggest Russia is now rushing to reinforce its defenses across the peninsula. They're building new trench systems, adding fortifications along the coast, and redeploying additional troops and air defense systems. Reports even indicate that Russian engineers are constructing layered defensive lines and reinforcing bases with electronic warfare systems to counter Ukraine's drones. This frantic defensive buildup shows that Moscow is genuinely worried about the situation in Crimea. The strikes are not just damaging equipment, they're damaging confidence. Russia now faces the reality that its prized peninsula is vulnerable, and that Ukraine's reach has extended far beyond the front lines. Ukraine's attacks on Crimea also carry a powerful symbolic weight. For Ukrainians, hitting targets in Crimea is a way of reclaiming a sense of justice, proving that no matter how long the occupation lasts, they can strike back. Every successful hit is celebrated as a small step toward liberation, and it boosts morale both at home and on the battlefield. For Russia, however, each attack is a reminder that the war is not going as planned, and that their grip on Crimea may not be as secure as they want the world to believe. Russia's rush to reinforce the peninsula also reflects strategic necessity. Crimea is a critical link in Russia's military logistics chain. Supplies, fuel, and reinforcements for southern operations pass through it. Losing Crimea, or even making it unstable, would severely disrupt Russia's ability to sustain its war effort in southern Ukraine. That's why Moscow is likely transferring more advanced defense systems like the S-400, Panzer S, and Tor M2 to the area, as well as positioning additional aircraft and anti-ship missiles along the coast. Another important point to consider is the information war surrounding these events. Both sides are engaged in intense propaganda battles. Ukraine highlights successful strikes to show progress and rally international support. Russia, on the other hand, downplays the damage, claiming its defenses are holding firm. In reality, the truth probably lies somewhere in between. Ukraine's attacks are having real tactical effects, but Russia is adapting and reinforcing in response. What's undeniable, however, is that the tempo of Ukrainian strikes in Crimea has increased significantly. From targeting fuel depots to radar systems and even naval ships, Ukraine is systematically dismantling Russia's operational capacity there. These attacks often use long-range drones and British or French supplied missiles like the Storm Shadow and Skal PG. Ukrainian officials have hinted that their goal is to make Crimea untenable for Russian forces by the end of the year. Russia's reaction has been swift. Besides physical fortifications, they've intensified counter-drone measures, jammed satellite signals, and reinforced radar coverage. There are also reports of Russia moving more troops from mainland areas to Crimea, a sign that Moscow fears a larger Ukrainian push or even a possible amphibious operation in the future. However, that kind of assault would require immense coordination and resources. So for now, Ukraine seems content to keep up the pressure through precision strikes. The psychological impact of these developments cannot be overstated. For Russian troops stationed in Crimea, the once secure bases are now vulnerable. For residents, frequent explosions, air raid sirens, and the presence of new fortifications are daily reminders that war is closing in. Many civilians have reportedly fled certain areas, fearing escalation. The situation has turned Crimea from a symbol of victory into a region under siege. On the Ukrainian side, the confidence boost is palpable. Each successful strike reinforces the narrative that Crimea can and will be contested. It strengthens Ukraine's position internationally, showing allies that their military aid is being used effectively. It also serves as a message to Moscow. Even the most fortified positions are not safe. But this escalation comes with risks. The more Ukraine strikes Crimea, the greater the chance of provoking a harsh Russian response. Moscow may retaliate with intensified missile barrages across Ukraine, or escalate operations in other sectors. There's also the possibility that Russia could target Western supplied weapon systems or attempt cyber operations against supporting countries. The line between limited strikes and wider escalation is very thin. At the same time, Ukraine's persistence in hitting Crimea signals a broader shift in its war strategy. It's moving from defensive operations to deep strikes aimed at undermining Russia's war infrastructure. By attacking command posts, depots, and communication hubs, Ukraine aims to reduce Russia's ability to wage war efficiently. This approach is less about territory right now and more about attrition, making the occupation so costly that Russia cannot sustain it indefinitely. Internationally, these developments have stirred intense debate. Western allies largely back Ukraine's right to strike legitimate military targets in occupied territory, including Crimea. However, some analysts worry about escalation and how far Ukraine might go. Russia's use of Crimea as a military platform makes it a legitimate target under international law, but politically, it's still a highly sensitive issue. Moscow continues to insist that Crimea is part of Russia and has warned that attacks there could provoke serious consequences. Behind these military moves lies a deeper strategic calculation. For Ukraine, success in Crimea isn't just about reclaiming land. It's about breaking Russia's image of invincibility. For Russia, defending Crimea is about survival, both military and political. Losing control, or even appearing weak, there would be a devastating blow to Vladimir Putin's narrative of strength and national pride. The next few months will likely see even more activity around Crimea. Ukraine will continue to probe Russian defenses, testing new tactics and technologies. Russia will respond with countermeasures and reinforcements, trying to plug every gap. The battle for Crimea may not come in the form of a massive invasion, but through a steady and relentless campaign of precision warfare, electronic disruption, and psychological pressure. As the war grinds on, Crimea has become more than just a piece of land. It's now the epicenter of strategic contestation between two nations fighting for radically different futures. The strikes, the defenses, the reinforcements, they all point to one thing: neither side is willing to give up. Ukraine's latest hits on Crimea and Russia's desperate rush to reinforce their positions mark a new phase of this long war. The tempo of operations is rising, and both sides are learning, adapting, and hardening their resolve. While we don't yet know how far this will go, it's clear that Crimea will remain the focal point of tension, strategy, and symbolism for months to come. As always, the human cost remains high. Civilians on both sides are caught in the crossfire, living under constant fear of new strikes or counterattacks. Every explosion in Crimea echoes far beyond its borders, reminding the world that this war is far from over. Ukraine's message is clear. Nowhere in occupied territory is safe for Russian forces, and Russia's response is equally clear. They will defend Crimea at all costs. The outcome of this confrontation could shape not only the war's direction, but the geopolitical landscape of the entire region. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay informed, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.